Hey there, it is Dr. Juice. In today's daily video, we're going to talk about what it means to not be an NPC. I'm going to tell you how to be that unique person that you are. So stick with me to hear what I have to say, and let's get into it. There's this concept called audience capture. This happens for a lot of different YouTubers or just any social account with a lot of followers, such as on Instagram or Twitter. You end up posting content and expressing opinions that you know are going to be popular with your audience. You have incentives to shy away from concepts that your audience won't like as much. This is probably strongest when it comes to political opinions, which is why you really want to avoid those. For many public figures, it will end up polarizing their audiences otherwise. But it can also be for any other type of opinion as well. It can even be just like the type of content you're making. YouTubers get funneled into certain types of content types where they just try to repeat doing the same thing over and over again that worked in the past. So in some sense, the YouTuber, the influencer, they become an NPC as well. For people in daily life, this happens all the time too, though. Have you ever been in a group of friends where they all are kind of thinking some opinion about something? Sometimes this can nudge you into that opinion yourself without even realizing it. Maybe if you had just been left to yourself, you would have thought about whatever topic it was and arrived at a different conclusion. But now you might just very quickly think in your mind, everyone else has this other opinion, and that actually seems to make sense. Actually, I think I agree with that opinion. It's crowd rule, majority rule. We all do it, and most of us do it to a great extent. Personally, I actually have a very low amount of this feeling. I really dislike coming to a conclusion or being very influenced by a crowd opinion. I have done this in a lot of serious decisions I've made in my life. Advised me certain decisions nearly unanimously to make a different decision than what I'm doing. But I still will just try to think through it on my own and try to come to my own decision on it. This doesn't really show up as much for everyone else. I notice it's pretty easy for a very close friend of mine. Once enough people tell him one thing, he ends up kind of falling into that opinion. Even though for every other aspect of his life, he seems quite creative and innovative and different in his thinking. This seems to influence him a lot. My partner, they are surprised by how immune to that sort of thing I can be. But I'm also not immune to it. I think I definitely will still be influenced by crowd opinion if there's enough of it banging down my walls of my mind. How can you avoid it yourself? I'll talk about those tips in a minute. But first, I also wanted to mention, even for myself, I am getting affected by this. I just scheduled a video to be posted that I think has a little bit of a controversial aspect to it. And I still feel some reluctance to post it. Even though my subscriber count is super low, I have 200 subscribers right now. My returning video on the last video I made had 12 returning viewers. That's just 12 people, right? From my subscriber base, right? So it's pretty silly, but even then, I still feel like I have a little bit of that audience capture. And what do I do there? I've recognized this and I went ahead and scheduled it anyway because I really actually like the video and I want to avoid getting that audience capture. I think starting off immediately to avoid audience capture at this point is a great path for me to take. Additionally, there's comments that I might think are silly and I'll still comment on them, and that's enjoyable. And I want to make sure that I don't get too influenced by those comments either and how I think about audience capture. This is something that helps in avoiding audience capture. If you are a real person, like you're presenting yourself as your real person in your videos or as an influencer or whatever, as your public persona, this is going to influence you more strongly than if you're anonymous. If you post on forums where you're anonymous, you see a very different behavior come out of people. And that's because, we modulate what we do if people know who we are. But being anonymous, that helps us avoid that modulation. So whenever you see yourself, just whenever you notice that you are starting to agree with the majority opinion, take a step back and try to understand why you're feeling that way. Are you feeling that way because of some logical reasons for the argument that's being made? Or are you kind of just instinctually starting to agree? Try to understand that point and then try to understand the state of your mind before you were given this majority opinion that has entered your brain. Can you think back about what your reasoning was before you were exposed? What ideas led you to this different conclusion? And compare that against the reasons that the majority is bringing up to you now. And that can maybe help you distinguish between whether a majority opinion is actually a good one or if you're just instinctually responding to it. For me, by taking this single path at the very beginning of my channel, I think it will really help influence the direction of the channel in the future. Even though the stakes are very low now, in principle, this makes me feel much more strongly about speaking my mind, getting out my clear thoughts, even if they're different, because that is what's most interesting. It's not so interesting to just hear the same opinions repeated ad nauseum, nor is it as valuable. So I'm okay with putting out some opinions that could be messed up or could be incorrect. One of these times, I'll put out an opinion that is very different but is super meaningful and insightful. And that is the shot I'm shooting for. That's the outcome I'm trying to hit. Some weird idea in video that gets rooted into your brain and gives you great value and happiness. If you'd like to have more ideas rooted into your brain, please like and subscribe. I'll be posting another video tomorrow. It will just worm its way into your brain and have a delicious time. Bye.